Hi there. I'd like to make a quick video demonstrating how you can implement both file and standard input handling in a Python-based CLI program that utilizes the Click package. So to do this, I want to put together a little demo app which will take as input either a file or standard input and parse out any words in that text, either in the file again or whatever's redirected in a standard input, and basically do a word frequency count of that input. And I think that'll be a pretty good little demo application to show how we can work with files and standard input using Click. So to get started, I'm going to make a directory here called click.wf, because the name of our program is going to be WF for word frequency. So let's say click.wf demo. And I'll change directories into click.wf demo. And then I'm going to make a simple text file to help work with at the beginning here. So we'll work with this as sort of like demo dummy data. And this text file is going to be a quote from the famous software engineer Martin Fowler. So let me create a new file here. We'll say vim Martin Fowler. I think just the name of Martin Fowler be the name of the file. And then let me grab a quote that I have off to the side here. So there's our quote. And it's basically, any fool can write code that a computer can understand. Good programmers write code that humans can understand. And I particularly like that quote also, just in case you're wondering. All right, so now I'm going to open this directory in my code editor, and yes, and we'll get to work here. And the remaining bit of my work for this video will just be done inside of this code editor. Okay, so first things first, what I want to do is I want to make an installable Click CLI program. So to do that, I'm going to use setup tools to make that happen. So let me make a setup.py module. And within here, I'm going to say from setup tools, and I'm going to import the setup function. And I'll implement the setup function as so. Setup. And then the name of this package is going to be WF for word frequency again. And I'll get rid of some of these pop-ups here from my editor. And then let's say the version will be version 1.0.0. And then it'll specifically work or look for a Python file named WF for the source of this package. And then we're gonna say Python required version, or requires, is going to be at least Python 3.6. And as far as library dependencies, the only dependency that we'll need here is just the Click library itself. So let's say install requires equals Click greater than or equal to version 8.0.0. And then the last thing is the entry point. So entry points are going to be console scripts entry point of let's say WF will be the name of the console program or the CLI program, and then that will map to a WF Python module and a main function within there. So there's our setup tools, our setup function. And then the next thing I want to do is I'm going to start creating or scaffolding out my Python source code for this package. So again, that's going to live here in a WF function or WF module. All right, so we'll start off really simple. So let's just import Click. We know we're going to use Click. So let's import Click, and then we already said that a main method is what we're going to map our WF CLI program to. So let me throw a pass in here real quick, and then just as good boilerplate, we'll say if dunder name equals dunder main, execute our main function. All right, and so the way to click enable this function is to annotate it with a click command. And then also I should add a function docstring so that comes through as help text in my click program. So let's say this thing counts word frequencies in given file or standard input. And that's good enough for a starting point. I don't really need this open anymore, but I'm going to come down here and I'm going to create a Python virtual environment to work in. So let me create a Python 3 virtual environment like so. And then I'll activate it with a source vem bin activate. If you're on Windows, it will look something like this. It'll be like venv, and then I think there's a scripts directory, and then there should be an activate.bat if you're on just CMD. Otherwise, if you're in PowerShell, it'll be a .ps. But if you're on a Mac or Unix machine, like I am, then you'll want to run that command. All right, and then so last but not least, I want to pip install my program, right? So I'm right here in the same directory as my setup.py file. So let me do a pip install -e for editable mode so that I can program while it's sitting there as an installed Python package. And then the current directory means a dot. So I'm installing that. And I can prove that it installed by just saying a wf --help. Oh, looks like that. We didn't install quite right. What were the messages that we got? Let me install that again. Running setup.py, found existing installation for wf. Uninstalled. Let's do a pip list. And we see it's sitting there, right there. Maybe I will deactivate and then reactivate my virtual environment. Maybe something got weird there. wf --help. Not found. I don't believe that. Let me take a look again. What's going on here? wf. I left out. So this needs to be pluralized right here is actually the problem. Is console scripts, it was just singular form. I needed to have an S in there. So let me install that one more time. Let's do pip install -e. And now if I do a wf --help, I have my program comes up and we can see my help text is there. So counts word frequencies in a given file. And then the only options are help at the moment. All right, so sorry about that little detour, but it does show that everyone's gonna make mistakes from time to time, and it's best just to stay level-headed and try to debug and figure out what we're wrong. All right, so first thing I want to do is I want to add file handling, right? So the way we add file handling for an argument is we annotate our command with an argument annotation. And then I'll call this file. So this will come through as a file variable in my main method here. And then I need to tell it what type. So click has a nice wrapper around the file object called file. And if I specify R for the mode, then it's going to open it automatically in reading mode. And I guess while we're here, I can quickly knock out the implementation of just doing a word count frequency. It's usually easiest done, just create a dictionary where your keys are your words, and then the values for each word are the count in which each word was seen in the input. So let's say words equals to an empty dictionary, and then we'll say for line in file, and then for word in line, and we'll strip off any new line characters at the end, and then we'll just split on the default, which is white space. So that leaves us with just words. However, I want to normalize this a bit and strip out punctuation as well. So let's say word equals word, and then we'll call lower on it to lowercase everything. That way, if a capitalized version and then a lowercase version are both present, really it's the same word, right? So let's just make them match by calling lowercase. And then I can say strip out punctuation by calling translate. And I think I'll need to import string here. So let me import string, and I'll say string make translation, and we'll do a replace to nothing, right? So anytime we find string punctuation, just replace it with an empty value. So we're just stripping out any commas, periods, and that sort of thing. And then, last but not least, we want to increment our words, right? So let's say words for the given word is equal to words get the word. You know, and if word isn't there already, then we want to say, well, give us a 0 instead, and then we just increment by 1. So that way, the very first time a word is present, then it's not going to be in our words dictionary yet, and we'll get a value of 0 and then add 1. So that would be our initial count of the first time a word is present to 1. Now the next time, that 1 is going to get incremented by 1, and it's just going to increment as we would expect, I guess. All right. In the end, what I want to do, because we'll have, you know, things like, you know, the, and then maybe the is in there 3 times, and then, you know, we'll have like can, and maybe can is in there twice, or, you know, stuff like that. And I don't know, maybe the word is in there, and then maybe we'll see word in there just like once. And this is sort of like the way in which I want to display it in the end. I want them in descending order from the most frequently encountered words to the least. So that means we're going to need to sort. So let's say words sorted equals, we'll call sorted on our dictionary of words, and we'll call it on the items itself. And items comes through as a tuple, right? So this is going to be a tuple of key and then value, a list of these. You could think of that, right? So like this. So that means I want to sort by the value of each item. So I could say key equal to lambda, and then item, and then I want the value, which is the index of 1 in each one of those. And I want this to be in descending order. So we'll say reverse equals true. And this should give us what we want. And then last but not least, let's iterate through this and use click to echo out to the user the word in each frequency. So let's say word for word and count in words sorted. And we'll do a click echo of word, and let's format this so that this is centered and it's at least 12 characters long. And then the count. So let's do count, and let's left justify each one. I shouldn't see more than 4 characters long. So, all right, so this accomplished the following for us, right? We added file argument handling, and then we put in the implementation for doing the word frequency algorithm. So let's test this out now. I can now do a WF and then -help, and we see now there's a file argument, and let's do that. So WF and then Martin Fowler, so the text that we put into this test data to work with. And dictionary has no thing of item, so I wanted items here, not item. All right, there we go. So we can see the most frequent word was can. It occurred 3 times, and then there's all the other ones below it. All right, so that's handling file input, but I mentioned I also want to demonstrate how we can implement standard input handling. So what do I mean by standard input, just in case you're not familiar with what I mean? Well, basically, like I could do the same thing that I was just trying to do, where I was just reading in directly from the file. But what if I wanted to like redirect content from that file into my program with like the redirect character there? That could be useful. Unfortunately, that doesn't, just specifying that a file type is not enough to make that happen. Another way you often see standard in being used with CLI programs is when you pipe content from one command to another, so sort of like chaining together a series of operations. So that could look something like, I'm gonna cat out my Martin Fowler, right? So if I run cat on Martin Fowler, it just displays the contents of what was in that. Well, I could pipe that into my WF program, and that would be useful too, right? Because then I could string together a series of things, and I could utilize my functionality of counting a word frequency. But again, we haven't implemented that correctly. So it's saying straight up, hey, you got to give me a file here, folks. Well, it turns out it's really easy to set a default value here to handle standard in instead. So if you use default equal to, so I'll import sys so that I can get my hands on standard in, but I can say sys standard in, and now this handles both a file when it's present, but it defaults to accepting just standard in. So just simply by making that change, I can now consume standard in that way, or I can pipe in standard in using the pipe character and string that together with another program before. And so really it's as simple as that, right? Which I think is pretty awesome, because we just implemented some pretty neat functionality in very little amounts of code, all due to the awesomeness of really the Python programming language and great libraries out there like Click. So I hope you found that useful, and I hope it gives you some ideas on some things that you can do for automation and other fun little programs using Python in the Click library. Thanks for tuning in, and hope to show you something cool in the near future. Thank you.